So the DA in New Mexico is charging Alec Baldwin with involuntary manslaughter. And people are saying he's going to go to prison. And the attorneys that are appearing on TV are saying that's because there's a firearms enhancement in New Mexico that's mandatory prison, 1 to 5 years. So if he's convicted, he has to do at least 1 year in prison. And I'm here to tell you that is not true. These attorneys are not doing their research. If you look at New Mexico law, specifically a state case called State v. Franklin back in 1993, look, it's a similar case. Similar being that it was two friends on a Sunday and they were playing a game of quick draw. They kept drawing their guns out at each other, and one accidentally shot the other one, and he was tried and convicted of involuntary manslaughter by negligent use of a deadly weapon. And the DAs in that case tried to add the firearms enhancement, and the trial judge said no. It's subsumed by the involuntary manslaughter through negligent use of a deadly weapon. It's subsumed into that. You can't add the firearms enhancement on top of that. And guess what? The prosecutors appealed that, and the New Mexico Supreme Court weighed in, and they agreed with the trial judge. So you're not going to add a firearms enhancement to a involuntary manslaughter with a firearm case. It's not going to happen. The New Mexico Supreme Court said that's not what the legislature intended. They don't want what is a probationable offense that carries 18 months to now get escalated to a mandatory prison offense carrying 6 years, 8 months for an accident. They don't want it. So State v. Franklin is binding law there in New Mexico. Alec Baldwin will not be facing mandatory prison. Now, could a judge, if they convict him on involuntary manslaughter, and I'm telling you right now, based on what's come out, I think the case is going to be very viable for a conviction for the prosecution. But could a judge send him to prison? Yes. I mean, the judge has that discretion, but he's going to have discretion, or she, to sentence him to probation as well. And one of the biggest factors that's going to come into this, well, there's two. Number one, this was an accident. All right? There was no ill will or intent. That's what involuntary manslaughter is all about. You didn't intend for the death to happen, but you did something either negligently or recklessly. Basically, you should have known better, and now somebody's dead. The second biggest thing is the victim's husband. Look, he came out and said, I do not want to see recrimination of Alec Baldwin. Whatever recrimination means, I take it to mean he doesn't want to see criminal punishment of Alec Baldwin. And the victim's husband is actually now a named producer on the Rust movie, which is going to continue filming. So in my experience as a prosecutor, when the victim comes into court or doesn't come into court, and the judge is given the information that the victim does not want to see punishment or prison time or even conviction, well, judges tend to lean towards giving probation on those cases, especially in a case where there was no intent to actually commit the crime, especially in a case where you got a guy like Alec Baldwin who, for all, intents and purposes, is a productive member of the community who does not have this long line of criminal history that warrants sending him to prison. So Alec Baldwin, is he going to do prison time? I don't see it happening. Is he going to see a conviction? Well, the DA's filed the charges for a reason, and one of the most damning facts that have come out here is that the day before the shooting, one of the crew members quit the movie and sent an email to everyone. And Alec Baldwin is a producer, not only the actor, but he's the producer. I mean, he's basically making this low-budget movie. And this email said, because this particular crew member has never seen such abhorrent safety precautions on a movie set, that there's been 2 live misfires already, which means there's probably live ammunition on the set, contrary to what Alec Baldwin and everybody told authorities. They had no idea how live ammunition got on the set. Well, if there's 2 live misfires already, that's telling everyone that you knew there was live ammunition on the set. Secondly, there's allegations that all the safety protocols that would normally be in place were not put in place because they were on tight budget. It's a low-budget production. They have 21 days to shoot. They don't have time to be checking everything. Well, that's pretty negligent, especially when you're dealing with firearms, especially when you're on notice that there have been some close calls already. And Third, there is even an allegation that Alec Baldwin, and maybe this isn't true, this is all speculation, but there's allegation out there in the news reports that Alec Baldwin was pointing the gun at people. Look, you have a live firearm, or you have what they said, a cold gun, unloaded gun in your hand. Man, I can't tell you the number of times where we've seen people have been shot by a gun that was supposedly unloaded, let alone loaded with blanks. So, yeah, it's definitely a viable prosecution. He could end up with the felony conviction on his record if the DAs want to take it that far. I think if this thing goes to trial, there's going to be a lot of damning facts out there that's going to make a jury say, this was offensive, what just happened here, and we do want to hold somebody responsible. I don't think this is going to come out at trial where the facts come out and go, hey, this is just an accident. We can't believe you're prosecuting this guy. I think the sheriff's investigation was turned over and the DAs looked at it and they said, finger licking good right here, because not only is he a high-profile figure, so now this DA can make their political career on it, but this case has jury appeal. We're seeing some very egregious things. Like if a public was sitting here and looked at everything we just looked at, they're going to be offended by this. And that's the kind of case that you want to take somebody to trial on, an offensive set of facts. And I think that when the sheriff turned over the investigation, if there was going to be a break cut in this case, the break was going to come at the non-charging stage. Like, we're not even going to file charges. You know, that would kind of be a blip in the radar, and the public perception would be that, hey, this was an accident and, you know, it didn't warrant criminal charges. But once the DA has come out forcefully and said, our investigation has turned up all kinds of misconduct here and we are pursuing charges, well, now to cut too much of a break on this case, you're definitely not going to go and dismiss the case, right? You're going to get some kind of plea out of it, maybe a misdemeanor conviction, but you're going to get something out of it. And it looks to me like, you know, Alec Baldwin's going to be in for a fight here. You know, one of the other directors already pled guilty to negligent use of a firearm, pled guilty on the misdemeanor a month or two ago. So things not looking too good for Alec Baldwin at this point, but this man ain't sending, he's not seeing prison time. He's not.